Okay. Well, this is purely an ice hockey live stream this evening because a lot has happened the last couple of days. We've seen the Milton Keynes Lightning struggle to ice a team and are struggling in the Elite League. We've seen the Invicta Dynamos today have released a statement and have started a crowdfunding appeal in order to survive the season. And we're seeing the Basingstoke Bison next week having an emergency meeting about the future of their rink and the future of the team down there. All three teams operate in Planet Ice operated arenas. Now, I don't know enough about all the teams in the UK. I don't know enough about the Elite League as such. I will follow my team in Bracknell, and some of my subscribers follow their local teams in Basingstoke, Swindon, and around the southeast. I will say this. What I do know about the sport in the UK is it's growing again, and money has become a problem again. We last saw a team go out of business, obviously, with the Edinburgh Capitals at the end of last season in 28, obviously this year, which has led to a few structural changes in the Elite League. So it's not a numbered league, and Hull Pirates may move across from the National Division 1 North into the Elite League. That's already had a rocky sort of ride. But we saw the Manchester Phoenix at the end, midway through the 2016-2017 season, run out of money in a similar fashion to Invicta. Also, they didn't have a permanent home. No, I will not play music because that's called a copyright violation. So that's a silly question. Why would I play music on an ice hockey sports session? That boggles belief. So no, I will not be playing music. Absolutely not. Yeah. So yeah, cool. And go away. Just piss off. Remove. Just go away. Bad end. Okay, so you've subbed to my channel, but I'm not a music channel, so I'm not sure what you're here for. I was trying to explain what's going on at the moment with a couple of teams in British ice hockey. Cool. Okay. Bye. I really couldn't care less. So basically, before that, Troll decided to have his moment. Invicta have launched a crowdfunding appeal in order to survive and be able to complete this season. They're aiming to try and honour their obligations for league and cup games for both the Invicta Dynamos and Invicta Mustangs, their second team. But they've quickly realised that the running costs are a lot higher in the second tier than the third tier. But we've seen this with the Manchester Phoenix. They didn't manage to sort out their financial issues, but their rink issues at Manchester, they were basically a nomadic team for the last 2 years of their existence. They played in 4 different rinks in 5 years or something silly like that. They had a multitude of issues when they went out. Of money. The Bracknell Bees, my team, they've almost gone bust a few years back. Basingstoke, they've had money issues as well. They almost went bust themselves. Obviously, the Edinburgh Capitals, they've gone out of business and are no longer a team. We're seeing that the Milton Keynes Lightning have gone up to the Elite League. They met all the requirements, but this season has proven a struggle, and there are allegedly money issues there. And we're seeing at the moment Basingstoke with their rink issues. So there are a few teams in serious trouble at the moment. I keep getting asked questions about British ice hockey on the channel in the comments section, and I keep getting asked questions to do this video or that video. So I looked on Twitter today, and I saw that Invicta, the club, had put on their Twitter feed, we're making an announcement. I've read through the entire statement. It's quite a lengthy statement. They've given out these 5,000 free tickets to local schools in the area in Kent and South East London. Other teams have been doing this schools outreach program now this season and previous seasons up and down the country. It's not just an ice hockey thing. Many teams have been doing this kind of outreach program now for quite some time. I am surprised Invicta are a little bit late on the uptake on that. I'm not an Invicta fan. I don't know the ins and outs of the running of that club and if they've done it before, but I was surprised that if they are doing it and it's the first time doing it, they're a little bit late on the uptake on that, because that could seriously increase footfall traffic into the rink for people to buy tickets, to buy merchandise, to buy bits and pieces around the rink. They've also appealed for new sponsors, so they're reaching out to local individuals and businesses to sponsor the team. And of course, they've launched this crowdfunding appeal about 57 minutes ago as we are recording this live stream. And okay, so we are where we are. What I find really interesting is the three teams currently that are having issues with where they're going. Milton Keynes Lightning in the Elite League, and Basingstoke and Invicta in the National League, is all their rinks or arenas, depending on the size, that's where the definition comes, it's weird, are all operated by Planet Ice. And the criticism that's aimed at Planet Ice is poor maintenance and high running costs that are laid down on the end user, being the customer, being you or me, if we are going there to skate. If we are wanting to go to train and skate, so coaching, the amount of money that they charge for coaching sessions, they want you to use their coaches, not your own coach, which is farcical, because obviously if you're an individual athlete and you're a member of a skating club, or you're an individual skater who wants to compete in a competition, you would normally have your own coach. So they're trying to force you to use their coaches who are of a lower standard than independent coaches, and they're forcing independent coaches to pay twice, if not more, for their hourly rate or their daily rate. And obviously the teams as well. The reason why people go to an ice rink to watch and to pay tickets to enter a building. There are allegations being levelled at Planet Ice in the past that they charge teams too much to operate and to train. So that's where a lot of the running costs come in for an ice hockey team, is renting the ice space. And that is a criticism that's been levelled at Planet Ice over the years. And it's a criticism that's not going away. The Invicta situation is interesting because they agreed, obviously, to the format of the league this year. They agreed to the format of the league last year as well. So they had obviously, done their homework and were happy with the running of the league and how the league was going to be formatted over this season and last season. So they signed up for this year's fixture list and how the league is structured this year. We are 2 months in, and they've worked out if they continue at current rate, they cannot complete the season. So it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. And we shall have to see what happens if the crowdfunding can raise enough funds to keep the team going, if enough sponsors get involved, and if over the next couple of weeks, if enough of these free tickets they've given out are taken up by the families of the school kids, and what happens there. Hello, Taylor. How are you doing? I'm obviously discussing the Invicta Dynamo's, Basingstoke Bison, and Milton Keynes Lightning and their off-ice issues, or on-ice issues if you're a Basingstoke fan. Obviously, today, it's, about an hour ago, Invicta released their statement on their club website and on Twitter, basically laying out what's going on. So they've launched this crowdfunding appeal, which I will be donating to after this video is done. I will be donating some money towards Invicta to make sure that they do live to fight another day. But also we've got the Basingstoke meeting between the operators of the rink, which is Planet Ice, and all the associated parties, which is the team, the fans, the end users, who are just the standard independent skaters who go there for training, and the Joe public who go there. So Basingstoke have their own issues to resolve. I do hope Basingstoke get to complete the season as well, because the rate we're going, we could have 2 less teams. We could finish the season with 6 teams in the Division 1 South, which would be farcical. And this is the issue with British ice hockey. We have a good period of time. So the Super League era, if you want to go back 2 decades, massive growth in the sport. And very, very quickly, it all tumbles down with teams having money issues. Now we've got the Elite League era, that's growing. The national side's doing well, and teams are struggling. it's an interesting one. So I'm interested to see what the hockey fans on this live stream and the questions you're going to ask, what questions you're going to throw at me in the next half hour or so. I'll be very interested to hear what you guys have to, or see what you guys have to ask me, and I'll do my best to respond. I don't know everything about each individual team in the UK. I'm going to say that now. But in the last 2 years, we've seen two teams go out of business for financial reasons. One halfway through a season and one at the end of the season. So Edinburgh and Manchester Phoenix have gone out of business. We could see two more teams fail to make the end of this season. I'm not sure about the Division 1 North. Not sure of that, but Division 1 South, we could end up with 6 teams, which would lead to the calls by some to, to bring back the old EPIHL structure, where you have those teams that are financially viable, that can compete as a second tier level financially, to form a second tier league from both North and South. There are going to be calls for that to be reinstated in some capacity. Those criticisms were labelled in a survey at the end of last season, which was done by Banners on the Wall, I believe. I did an online survey. Several surveys were done, and basically a lot of British hockey fans basically came back and said we want the EPIHL to sort of return in some capacity, with a few changes, with a few new teams in there, but basically that's what we want. But it comes down to money. Money is what is causing problems right now. It is. It is causing problems right now because there's a lack of it in some teams. And the teams that I have mentioned that are struggling are Planet Ice operated rigs that they use. So that's a wide and lengthy criticism that has been thrown out. But this is not the first time that we've seen teams in financial trouble, and we saw it with Bracknell in the last couple of years. We got through it. We've seen it with Basingstoke. Before their rig started falling apart, they got through it. Other teams, Telford, have had to mothball for a year before they've had to go into hiatus while they sorted out financial problems, and then they came back, and they've come back really strong the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, 6 years. But they basically went out of business at one point. Manchester, we've seen it several times. So there's nothing new for British ice hockey, nothing new at all. But it is a concern that with the sport growing again, and we're now producing good quality players for the first time in a generation, or if not more, and the national side doing well, that at domestic level there are problems within the game. The league needs restructuring. The sport needs restructuring in governance and how everything works out. There needs to be some serious restructuring of the league as it stands, and the levels. There really does. There needs to be some kind of investment, be it from central government, local government, or private investors into the sport for it to be viable. And that's also aimed at the Elite League as well. The Elite League needs to look at itself and go, right, have we expanded in the right locations? Are Guildford and Milton Keynes the right teams that we should have brought into the Elite League? And, is Hull going to be viable long term in the Elite League? That's another really important question to ask, because Hull have had a team in the Stingrays in the Elite League before, and they financially went bust. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this crowdfunding appeal. It's going to be interesting to see what the amount of money they actually need to complete the season as currently stands. And, what's going to be the future? Another important point, what the future of the sport in the UK is going to be. That's what it boils down to, is the future of the sport. What, is the future of the sport going to be? Because if Invicta can make it to the end of the season, fine. But then Basingstoke, their future uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen at this meeting next week. We don't know what's the result of that meeting is going to be. And Invicta, if they do complete the season, fine. But what happens after that? Are they going to be able to ice 2 teams next year? if they do get enough money, or are they going to be able to survive as a club? Because they might run out of money before then. So that's going to be an interesting talking point. It's tomorrow, is it? Okay. Well, hopefully the outcome that wanted by all is that the team survives in some capacity. If that means they have to merge with another hockey club, so be it. If they decided to try and repair the rink, which is going to need a couple of years worth of repairs, I'm not going to lie, going to need a brand new ice surface, brand new boards, brand new plexiglass, brand new netting, brand new seating. The entire rink would have to be gutted and rebuilt, which will take a couple of years, which is a shame. But Telford went out, mothballed for a couple of years and came back really well. It's not for the team playing badly at Basingstoke. It's not through bad ownership, as in the person who owns the team. It's Planet Ice, which is the problem. And Planet Ice could be the problem in Victor's case, because criticisms have been levelled at that company for charging too much for ice time, both from individual skaters to hockey teams. So hopefully the meeting tomorrow at Basingstoke has some positive results. I was talking to some Basingstoke fans at the game against Bracknell on Sunday last weekend, and I did feel very, very sorry for all your fans. Basically, I felt very, very sorry for the situation that the Bison find themselves in. It's through no fault of the players. It's through no fault of the fans. It's through the management of the rink. The local council and the local member of parliament have basically failed miserably in a situation which should have never got this far. It should have never, been allowed to get this far. And it is a shambles what's happened in Basingstoke. Hello, I may catch Laser's live stream, but I'm doing this live stream. But I appreciate the message there. Cheers for that. It's good to see you guys. I know you have a good turnout every game, and the amount of fans you brought to our place at the weekend stunned me. I've never seen so many as an away contingent. That was good to see, but I have noticed a lot of Basingstoke fans are wearing their Basingstoke jerseys to Bracknell games this year, and have bought season tickets and are coming down to every Bracknell home game. So I don't know what the future holds for the Bison long term. If they can complete the season, that's great. If they can't, then we really could have a farcical league where we end up with 6 teams in Division 1 South, which I think no one wants. Invicta have basically come out and said we're going to try and complete the season. They've basically come out and said that's what their statement's basically saying, is we're going to honour as many of our league games as possible, but as it currently stands, they can't complete the season with the money they've got. Well, here's the thing. When at the beginning of the summer, I was working as a farm labourer, my boss, the guy who was above me, who was basically my manager, his current partner, used to play for the women's team. I think still does play for the women's team. And the reason why they moved to Slough was they were told they could not be guaranteed that they could complete the season, or that the rink would not fail dangerously and be a danger to basically humans, basically be unsafe to use. That's what they were told back in about May, June time, that they couldn't be guaranteed ice time and they couldn't be guaranteed that the season would be completed. So I am surprised that Basingstoke have made it this far into basically icing a team for this season and playing games. And that's no slight on the fans, because Basingstoke have a passionate fan base and always have. Some of the chants we chant at each other are pretty hilarious. I find in good taste, a bit of tongue in cheek, but they are fun. But the concern that I have is that should Basingstoke have basically finished last season, merged, let's say, with Slough, and should they possibly, let's say, merge with Slough, as an example, that would be a possibility. Well, that should have been considered as a possibility. If the women's team managed to merge with Slough, why couldn't the men's? That means you still have a team in Division 1 South. And Slough have been obviously in the Super League in the past and have been in the old EPIHL in the past. So it would help them financially having, a merger of the two clubs. And it's still reasonably local for those local Basingstoke fans to still want to travel. They're willing to travel to Bracknell. Slough isn't that much further away. It's an extra 15, 20 minutes. If they're willing to travel to Bracknell in large numbers on a Bracknell home game, I can see that still being a viable option. That's something that, in my mind, I would be thinking of outside the box. But yes, I get it. It is a situation that isn't great, and I'll be following that on Twitter. I will be following that tomorrow, if as much as I can. The Lord Bentner, yes, Nicholas Bentner. I know it's meant to be primary in ice hockey live stream tonight, but his arrest for assault. He's contesting the charges. He's appealing, but he's not the first sportsman to do this. He will not be the last, and there has been a lot going on. The Hibs Hearts. The goalkeeper and the linesman were assaulted at one end. So that was Hibs fans assaulting the goalkeeper and the linesman, and then Neil Lennon was attacked by a Hearts fan who was lobbing missiles that included coins. I think Neil Lennon has been a bit of an idiot in his comments today. I didn't do a video on it just to avoid the standard troll plague that we have on YouTube at the moment. But still add some moderators, so we're all moderators because you're nice guys. He says it's sectarianism. No, I call it racism. Well, racism is actually those targeting the colour of skin. He's white. It's white on white. Sectarianism is the problem. He is right in when he played in England, he didn't have this. When he played for Leicester, he did not have any kind of sectarian issues as a manager or as a player when he was managing Bolton and when he was playing for Leicester. When he went to play for Celtic, it's when the last 18 years of hell for him has started. And I do agree, yes, there is an issue there. When Levine's coming out and say it shouldn't have happened as well, that says a lot. When you've got a Catholic manager and a Protestant manager both coming out and saying this has got to stop. Bear in mind, these are fiery characters. Craig Levein and Neil Lennon are two of the fieriest characters in the Scottish game. Why is it that in the professional ice hockey side of things, when it comes to Scottish ice hockey, this doesn't happen? Scottish rugby doesn't happen. Football happens a lot. It says to me there's an issue with the sport in Scotland. It says to me that I think Neil Lennon hasn't helped his case by he was egging them on. He was being a bit stupid. That happened at Everton last year as well in that European game. And that banned for life and charged. It's highlighting the security issue because we've already seen one fan get on the pitch at Man United with fake guns in his rucksack and actually got on the pitch. Had they been real guns, God knows what would have happened. And now this Hearts Hibs, though, I mean, it's trying to be the old firm, isn't it? It wants to get the press coverage for being the second big derby in Scotland, isn't it? Really, it sees Celtic and Rangers fans going ding dong, and it wants a bit of it. I remember that, yes. So basically, I know we got a bit sidetracked here, and I will quickly answer, your thoughts on the subject. I think Neil Lennon's comments haven't helped. I think it's possibly inflamed the situation by claiming that the attack was racist. No, it's purely sectarianism and it's purely hooligan element. The Edinburgh Derby has been getting more and more fiery in recent years as the fortunes have waxed and waned of the two teams. And at the moment, both teams are at the top end of the table, and a very congested top end of the table. So for the first time in a long time, the Edinburgh Derby means something. It's competitive. It's competitive. It's going to get. He's now considering his position as a manager in Scotland. Now, he did say when he was manager at Bolton, no sectarian chance against because he's Catholic, nothing. When he was a player at Leicester, no problem. In fact, he played very well at Leicester and played with a good reputation at Leicester. His time in Scotland, basically, for the last 18 years, he said it's been nothing but hell. He's had death threats, he's had suspicious packages, he's had bullets sent to him, he's had Catholics and Protestants threatened to kill him. Brendan Rodgers has had it. McCoyster's had it. Ex-Rangers boss. Alex McLeish has had it. And with a seller like McLeish, you would think he'd be a Catholic, wouldn't you? I think any player or manager who's played in Scotland has basically at some point said sectarianism is still an issue in the stands. And it's probably worse in Scotland than it is in Northern Ireland, which is terrifying, which is worrying. That's a concern. And yeah. But no, how the fan managed to... I think the goalkeeper was going to get the ball. I think the linesman stepped in. He was assaulted as well. And people wonder why there is an issue recruiting officials for the game. People wonder why there's a lack of young British managers. There's your answer. When they're getting missiles lobbed at their heads and their players are getting assaulted, and the guys officiating the game are getting assaulted. I can see Hearts and Hibs being fined heavily for what happened. Okay, I might see it. I'll see how long this goes on for, and what how busy the live stream gets. But long story short, I didn't do a video on it because sectarianism is still a hot topic, and with some of the abuse I received on my video that I did about Dan Rowan's comments at Leicester City, and I've had all sorts. Hence why I did the jokey video of I'm not offended by the trolls. I'm offended by I'm offended by their poor spelling. Hence the response to the trolling. Because I've got the YouTube moderator app turned on basically, so it automatically reviews what's been posted, and anything borderline hate speech gets flagged. I wasn't offended by what they were saying. I've had worse things said at me. I was offended by their poor grammar, and yeah, it is happening with local football at youth level, with parents becoming aggressive. But you don't see this in ice hockey. You don't see this in rugby. For some reason, we see it primarily in football in this country, but in America, you see it with baseball. So the main national sport, it seems to be a trend that parents or fans get really abusive, and we don't see it with ice hockey as much, which is good. And this is the problem. There isn't enough people willing to do officiating. There isn't. And talking about ice hockey, the National League and the English, the Great British Ice Hockey, the governing body, they try and do a recruitment drive for officials by offering refereeing courses. You pay obviously for the course, but then you become a licensed ice hockey referee. I think it's an interesting situation that we find ourselves at. The Newcastle Watford. I think it's going to be a Watford win. I'm going to go for 3-0. Newcastle can't score, so it's not going to be like Watford are going to be tested in defence. And I think Watford, the way they're playing, 3-0 to Watford. Yes, Matthews. Now we could discuss Mr. Matthews. He's inconsistent. He is. I'm assuming you were at the game at the weekend. There were calls that confused you, a Basingstoke fan, and there were calls that confused me as a Bracknell fan. That should have been a penalty shot, not a power play. I don't know which that would favour more if Basingstoke had that player that's good on a one-on-one. But that would have meant the game would have gone to overtime and both teams get a point. In the end, it's given as a power play. Bracknell's penalty kill was brilliant. Nullified Basingstoke's attack, and then we score an empty netter a few minutes later. So again, refereeing standard, consistency needs to be there. People complain about Evans because he's too by the book, but at least he's consistent in the way he referees the game. Matthews referees the game like, how shall I referee the game tonight? Shall I be good? Shall I be bad? Shall I be blind to serious foul play? But there is an issue with getting enough referees in all sport. It's not just an ice hockey or a football or rugby thing. It's getting enough officials. And and ex-players make pretty good officials. They do. They have to respect the players that are playing because they played the game. And I think there could be a pathway for that to happen. But I'll be interested to hear what actually comes out of that meeting at Basingstoke tomorrow. I'll be very, very interested to hear the results of that meeting and what's going to happen going forward for the Bison and their future as a hockey club and where they're going to be playing next year, if they are going to be playing next year, if they're going to rink share with someone like Slough, for example, or merge with another team, or Guyana Gospel and merge with them. It'd be interesting to see where they end up as a team. But no, there is definitely with Invicta and this crowdfunding, it's a sad state of affairs when a team in a sport, in an established league, needs to crowdfund. I do follow Basingstoke, Bracknell, Streff. I think I follow most of the National League on Twitter just to keep up to date with as much of news as possible. I follow Banners on the Wall, the podcast. I try and follow as much as I can by following as many teams as possible that do have Twitter feeds. So I do follow Basingstoke, I do follow Invicta, I follow Streatham, Bracknell, the Raiders, Swindon. I try and follow as many teams as possible on Twitter because it makes it easier when what's happened today with Invicta issuing this emergency statement to understand what's going on. And so I can also, I think £5,000, I think that could cover them. I think if that's their shortfall, they're easily going to get that. That is more than achievable, considering how many fans they have. I think also 5,000 free tickets to school kids in the local area, much like Bracknell, Basingstoke, Swindon, all these other teams have done with these school zone programs that they've got. I'm surprised they were that late on the take up of putting a school zone kind of giveaway thing in, but they've done that, and they've already got £1,000 in an hour. So I think they are going to be able to crowdfund very, very quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if some people give multiple donations. If they want £5,000 and they've already got £1,000 within an hour, I do think their crowdfund is going to be successful. The fact they're having to resort to this kind of cash raising effort is concerning, because I believe that could only be a short term fix. I'm actually more concerned about Basingstoke finishing the season than Invicta. I think Invicta, they need a short term cash injection to survive. Basingstoke is a far deeper issue with Basingstoke. If you look at Milton Keynes Lightning, they're also struggling in very similar circumstances to Invicta with being able to ice a team. Player recruitment's been a problem. They've got a lot of injuries, some money issues there as well. All three teams operate in Planet Ice operated rinks or arenas. So there's a trend here. If your rink is operated by Planet Ice, you will probably have problems at some point. The regular criticism is the operating costs that are handed down to the end user, be it the individual skater, the individual coach, or the ice time for the teams. That has been a regular criticism against Planet Ice since the company founded. They charge too much for ice rental, and I think that's one of the reasons why Invicta are struggling. Planet Ice have upped the ice rental for the Dynamos because they're in the second tier, and of course they're running the Mustangs as well. So they've got two teams to run. I think that running cost is just unsustainable, and I think the blame there lies at Planet Ice's door for being unsustainable in what they're demanding for teams to pay and individuals to pay, and it's been an ongoing Planet Ice for 5-6 years now, if not longer, that they charge too much for usage of their ice surfaces. There's no harm in saying that. Now there's no one watching, so that's great, isn't it? But no. Oh well. So we've had some interesting questions so far while we're at this impasse. So Invicta have released their statement today. Basingstoke have a meeting tomorrow. Hopefully the outcomes are positive for both. And if Invicta do raise the money, I believe they will. I honestly believe they will raise enough to be able to survive and compete the season. But there we go. It's a worrying sign when they have to crowdfund. The fact that a team has to crowdfund is, in this day and age, unacceptable. I cannot believe that they're being forced to crowdfund to survive. But the fact they've every team is going to say that. Every team says that in any statement that's released. They say we've got the best fans. But no, I have to admit they do bring fans to Bracknell games. Not many, but they bring a fair few, considering the level they've been playing at for 22 years. They do bring a fair few. And from the footage that I've seen online, they've got their YouTube channel, and the footage I've seen on YouTube, they seem to pack out their little rink quite well. The fact that they're already 20%, 25% of the way to their goal within an hour of launching that crowdfund campaign is just testament that if every single fan that goes to an Invicta game regularly was to give a tenner, I think they'll be covered. I honestly do. If every single fan at Invicta home game regularly was to give a tenner, which is what they say is the minimum requirement for this crowdfund, they will be fine. They would raise more than enough money to see out this season, and to possibly sign one or two more players as replacements for the players they've lost. I mean, the fact that Martin Susters on Halloween on 31st said, "I want an immediate termination to my contract. I don't want to play for the team anymore." Whether that's something to do with the money side of it, or an actual breakdown in relationship between him and his teammates, that says something. When last year, when players like Cam Fowler threw the toys out the pram, there is a culture issue, I think, in that dressing room. Though, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say it's perfect for Invicta, because every season they have high player turnover, and they struggle as the season goes on to put a decent team on the ice, and that's a problem. Because the Mustangs, they had poor discipline last year as well. I mean, their discipline was poor, but the player turnover and the amount of players that come and go through that hockey club isn't great, which says to me that there is a bad 40 pass. Okay, I see what you mean. Also, well, it depends on how many more questions you guys want to ask about the current situation in British ice hockey. I'm more than happy to keep talking about the state of things as it is now. But I can always, wind this up at 22 and then have a look at what he's got to offer on his live stream. It'll be interesting to see what he has to offer and what he wants to talk about tonight. I'm subscribed to his channel, so I'll be interested to see what he's going to be doing tonight, and what he's going to be talking about, and the topics he's going to be talking about. Obviously, him being younger, he might have a different way of approaching things, so it'll be interesting. I don't know much about the Hampshire Premier League, but we have the Berkshire League, and we have regional league. I mean, we've got Bracknell Town and stuff like that. Again, I know a bit about the Hampshire League, but not enough about non-league football. I really don't know enough about non-league football. Your best bet to talk about non-league football would be to talk to Mike. Mike Talks Football, and message him and see what he knows about it. But if you're saying there's an issue with getting officials to officiate games, that's a widespread issue up and down the country. That's a widespread issue in football, and in fact, multiple sports. When I was playing rugby, we had issues getting enough officials to referee games. Okay. I mean, I'll be more than happy to, in 10 minutes, hop across and see what he's got to do for a little bit. I won't be able to stay on for long because I've got things to do down my end, but I'll be more than happy to see what he has to offer and contribute to. What's going on? Yeah, where I live, we've got Bracknell Town FC, we've got Bracknell Cavaliers, we've got Sandhurst down the road. We have Bracknell Rugby Club, Crowthorne Rugby Clubs. We've got two rugby clubs in the lower levels of British Rugby Union. We've got Binfield. We've got Ascot United. We have a lot of football clubs in the local area. Some are well established, like Bracknell Town. They've been going since 1896. Others are more recent, but we have a fair few. I think it's about the same size as Space. It's about 100,000 people now. 15 years ago, it was about 56,000 people. So it's doubled in size in like 15 years, which is insane. A lot of building work going on. A lot of buildings going up. Flats, houses, office blocks, warehouses. So there's a lot going on where I live at the moment. It's pretty much been a building site for the better part of a decade, if not more now. With various bits of building work going on with the new college and then the new town centre and industrial estates and flats going up all over the place. So it's basically a massive building site half the time. I would say it's growing quite quickly, a lot quicker than when I was younger. It's really got big very, very quick. It's really grown in size. In my lifetime, I think it's trebled in size from what it was when I moved here in '91. So it's definitely a hell of a lot bigger now than what it was when I first moved here. I'm in one of the older houses in Bracknell as well, ironically. My house was built in 1972. But no, it's definitely bigger. than when I was a kid. I think when I was Billericay Town. Well, my great aunt lives in Billericay, or family live in Billericay, not too far from their ground. I don't know enough about non-league football. I'm assuming they must have got to the first round of the FA Cup proper or something, because apart from that, I don't have a clue about non-league football outside my local area, really. And I'm being deadly honest. But the ironic thing is, I have family who live in Billericay in Essex. So the irony of that, that's come out. And they live not too far from their little ground. So I'll have to look into Billericay Town FC and see what is going on there. I have not a clue about Billericay Town FC, but I just know my aunt lives out there, so that's about it. I've got family there. But talking about Bracknell, the town itself has really grown rapidly in the last couple of years. Massive growth in the town, population wise. We've got, I think, 5 new schools have had to be built. We've got like 3 new housing estates going up. I think it's about the same size, if not a little bit smaller. I think Basingstoke is slightly larger. Basingstoke is also a more established, older town as well. Bracknell used to be a village until the 1950s, and then it became a new town. So the history of Bracknell was really interesting. History of Basingstoke is really interesting as well. But I think Basingstoke, when I was a sales rep, we did a lot of pitching in Basingstoke. Basingstoke is just that little bit bigger. I would say a couple of thousand people, not by much. But for some reason, I don't know what it is that Bracknell Ice Rink has problems. Not gonna lie, it does need more than a lick of paint. It needs a fair bit of work doing to it, but they're doing it bit by bit as they keep it open, so it's still making money. And the dry ski slope. Basingstoke Ice Rink, I don't know how allowed to get to the state it has, but that is shocking that, excuse me, that Planet Ice and the local council have allowed the situation at the rink to get to a point which is so bad, like so bad, that it's pretty much dangerous just to sit down and watch a game. When I went with a couple of friends just before Christmas last year for a Bracknell Basingstoke game, it wasn't a pleasant experience watching the game. The fact that Basingstoke won is irrelevant. Actually, watching the game was not a pleasant experience. Bloody freezing, and every time the players got near the boards, I thought the boards were going to give away and they're going to go through the plexiglass. Where's Mike and Kemmel gone on YouTube? I will have to have a little hunt for them, because Mike was on this morning's live stream. Kemmel was on, I believe, a live stream a few days ago. They are still producing content, and I'm going to have to double check where they've gone. So if you bear with me, this is why I get my phone out, and I'm going to look on Twitter and see if they're still going. I know Mike has obviously had issues with monetization, and he's contesting YouTube's decision over not to monetize him again for that duplication. So he's got to wait another 25 odd days, I think, before he can go back through the application process. Kemmel, I honestly don't know. He's been doing his post pre-match Chelsea reviews and his Chelsea videos. I'm going to have a little look to see what they're doing. But we shall see. Let me just double check, see if Mike is still about. No, he's still on Twitter. So let me just double check his YouTube channel, because it's gone straight to the app. So positive signs here. So let's just have a quick look. Yep, no, his channel is still going. He's still there. He did a video yesterday on his preview and predictions for this weekend's championship games. He did a video, a live stream on the Carabao Cup live draw, and obviously he did his Derby County and Chelsea live stream, which I was involved with as a viewer. So he's still there. Now we want Kemmel, and I believe he's still going as well. Yep, and he's still going as well. So, and he did a video about the Chelsea derby game as well. So, they're both still on YouTube. The fact they're not on the live stream is nothing to worry about. They are still plugging away. Are still going. So fear not, their channels are not being taken off air. They are still there. Before everyone panics and starts panicking about everything, they are still there. Fear not. Everything's under control. It's basically. But I will obviously double check, obviously, the Invicta crowdfunding later on tonight, and if they achieve their goal, that is amazing. I intend to give a tenner. That's all I can give, and I do hope that they are able to complete this season. Basingstoke is a different kettle of fish, Taylor. I do know that. The rink may fall down. The fact that they did say they would rebuild the side of the rink that failed, which terrifies me, where the penalty boxes are, that players will actually die going through those boards. I am surprised that no work's been done. If they're saying they're going to do the refurb to the rink, why is there areas, boarded up areas, scaffolding up internally, and why is the floor, like a Picasso masterpiece, and why is the ice surface sloping more and more every day? Because I know the condition of the rink has worsened since I was there last year in December. I know it's far worse now than what it was 10 months ago, 11 months ago. For me, Planet Ice are playing a very dangerous game. It's a matter of time before a player is seriously injured or worse on those boards, especially on the penalty box side, because the way they're angled, I really fear for a player getting checked into those boards on a legitimate safe hit. That if that was at Bracknell or Swindon, not a problem. But at Basingstoke, check into those boards, they're getting severely injured or worse. That is the risk they're running with the state of the rink as is that a player or players or fans, for that matter, if they were seriously injured or worse, they're playing a very dangerous game. Very dangerous game. And, the fact that they've been promising to rebuild that seating area for, 3 years now? 2 years now? Is deplorable that they've done no action in doing so. No action in repairing the wing. All they've got to do is shut it for a couple of years, mothball it, allow that whole site to be redeveloped whilst repairing that rink inside and out, reopen it. It's the basic solution. Also, the council have not taken up the option of a compulsory purchase from Planet Ice to then do what Streatham have done and have a rink built by the council. That's what's stunning, is there's a compulsory purchase scheme where local government and developers can compulsory purchase property and turn it into something useful. Right, anyway, I'm going to end the live stream now. I know it's only been 47 minutes. It's been a little short one, but Laser's got a live stream and I want to see what he's all about and actually watch some of his content and contribute. So thank you for all your questions. I know it's a bit shorter, but there's only so much I can talk about with British ice hockey. But hopefully Invicta make their crowdfunding target, what they seek, at least for the short-term cash injection, and hopefully long-term things are better. Hopefully the results at tomorrow night's meeting at Basingstoke are positive because they need to finish the season as well. And hopefully Milton Keynes Lightning also, they can sort out some of their on and off ice issues as well, because there's rumours they have hit the financial brick wall, which will be a real shame if they were to go tits up. That really would. So I shall catch you guys in about probably a minute or two on another channel, on another live stream. So catch you guys in a bit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.